Good evening, everyone. So, in light of what has been going on with the market today, we all figured it would be good to just get together and have a bit of a chat about the state of the market now, how it got to here, and just things like that. I'm Josh. You can find me at the Lab Report X on Twitter. And then, Will, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, so I'm the honky stonk man.
He
at
needs
Will
no
Furry
introduction.
on Twitter. I gained a bit of a following due to my trading 2-on-2 outburst and DD and calls. So you might know who I am if you're watching this.
Hi, I am the Value Engine on Twitter, also known as John. I have a fondness for penny stocks, and well, I'm a commodities and forex man at heart, but dabbled in stocks since sort of November time a bit more deeply. So I am the Value Engine on Twitter, and yeah, shall we jump into just what's happened today? What's happened today?
Yeah, panic. What's happened today.
Panic, but not from us. May I add?
I feel like we got to talk about what caused this. I know, John. You've been sort of looking in a bit more detail. What's been going on past year? Give us a bit of a backstory.
Yeah, so it ties into sort of my experience as a trader, really. So I'm 2 years out of university. I dabbled in trading at university, but I was more into the commodity side of thing. I did a lot of currency trading and made a lot of money off it during the 2016 election, to be frank. But I saw stocks as quite a slow, safe investment. I never really looked into them too much. I was obsessed with the big returns you could get from forex. But after COVID's happened, I think a lot of people like myself saw that huge dip in the market earlier, sort of March time last year. I know I was looking at it with UK stocks, particularly things like Games Workshop, stuff like that, which I just had on my watch list. I saw suddenly down 70%. Huge losses across the stock market. People like me, of course, love a big dip in a graph, and people jump in. You've got big trading groups have emerged, grown in size hugely this year. Groups like Atlas Trading on and Sapphire, if I'm right, it's Sapphire, isn't it? The other trading Discord. On Twitter, Discord, they've grown in huge numbers. You've got people coming in sensing this great opportunity to make money. And quite honestly, if you invested money in March in the stock market, chances are you were golden in a few months.
I mean, yeah. Look at people like Zach Morris, PJ Matlock. They made most. I mean, they'd be willing to accept themselves. They've made most of their wealth this year. It's been such an opportunity, really, and also their growth. I mean, you're talking about everyone jumping on, sensing an opportunity. Their followers, and you talk about followers of stock in general. I think Zach had 50K back last year, and now he's got over 400,000. The amount of people who are interested in the stock market now is just crazy, and it is all because of what's been happening with COVID.
Yeah, was it PJ Matlock started with 20K and made it to 12 million in a year in one account?
Yeah.
The potential has been amazing.
Yeah, Zach's was he'd been doing it for 3 years and was losing quite a lot of money, and then just closed the whole portfolio and started again, and now he's doing as well as he is. And frankly, all of us have done quite well, and most of us started in November, October time, and everything leading up and over there. Will, do you want to run us through what's happened in the last few weeks of note, really?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where, so normally what's happening on the stock market is, if you're a swing trader like myself, so I tend to do swings, mainly on OTCs. I saw that was where the money was. You can obviously put in a small amount and see 1,000% returns. And I think that's what interests a lot of new traders. And I think what we're finding out is normally when you're a swing trader, you've got to wait a long period of time with a lot of patience and a lot of pain through seeing loads of dips and scaling out your profits at peaks. And I think what we found out is that ever since what's been happening with Wall Street Bets, which is, it was amazing, it needed to happen, but it's been a chaser's market. And I think it's safe to say all sense of normality's gone out the window. It's just there's no more DD that needed to be done on stocks. It was just, jump on a stock and it runs 400%. I mean, you look at February 10th, there was 8 stocks under $1 on the main markets. I mean, I myself was guilty for this. You just see hype on a stock and you jump on because you know you would be rewarded. I jumped on naked at 50 cent and it ran all the way up to $3.30. And it was that sort of stuff. You didn't need to do DD, and a lot of new traders jumped in from this whole game AMC stuff, and were finding themselves making lots of money just off the fact they were jumping on something which someone called. And that's not the normal market. That is not the way that it works normally. And I think now that we're getting a sense of this is a little bit of a pullback after that whole thing, I mean, people are suffering and finding out, you know, oh God, it's not always just chase. And, you know, I think there's been a lot of panic sellers. I mean, it's safe to say there's been a lot of panic sellers over the past couple of, and maybe the past week or two. And that's caused not only with the SPY drops, which we'll go into a bit more detail later, but I mean, that's caused a lot of panic and a lot of drops in pricing, and a lot of people have lost a lot of their portfolio.
Yeah, I think we add a disclaimer here that when we refer to a chaser's market, perhaps we are talking about a market where quite in the simplest term, you look at the graph for a stock, right? Or the price of a stock over time. We generally advise buy when they're ugly and sell when they're happy. Take your profit. A chaser's thing is not necessarily not buying the dip as such, or buying because you have solid DD behind it. You see graph go up and buy, and you have very little risk in that kind of chaser's market. If you want to hear more about chaser's market, Atlas Trading do a great podcast called Pennies Going in Raw. They go into more detail about it. I don't think we're going to go into so much detail about that and what's caused that today. We're focused more on what's been happening with the SPY, the SPY graph, SPY 500, and what's happened in the last few days. Yeah, we do not advise chasing. There's a disclaimer. Not a good idea.
I stress it on my
though at some point.
I think it's all part of learning. I think everyone at one point, everyone's been burnt for chasing, and you need that experience to teach you not to chase it. It doesn't matter what someone tells you on Twitter. If you see a stock going up, you want in on that, especially if yours aren't doing too good. You know, that is a natural feeling to have. And I think when you're trading, you need to just learn to take control of your emotions and just step back for a minute and think, okay, my stock might be down, but has anything changed, really? Has anything changed about my research, my due diligence? Has anything changed? And no, is it just a small dip in the road? You know, is it still showing a bullish trajectory on the way up? And let's say on a 3-month graph, you know, you need to take into account everything. You're not always going to win on every stock, and you're not always going to see 100% gain day after day. You've got to be patient, and that's the thing. What I say. So when I make my calls on Twitter, I know a lot of people do jump on them straight away. So I try and pick things before they move or when they're ugly, because I don't want to be calling out something that's ran 300% in a few days. It might run more, but then it might have a massive pullback, which is I don't want a bunch of my followers getting burnt just because, you know, we've jumped on a stock a bit too late. So anything I call, I'm trying to call, like you said, John. It's stuff that's looking ugly. If it's pulled back 50%, a lot of people would normally not want to jump on that. But for me, that's an opportunity. That's an opportunity for a pullback. It's oversold. It's looking terrible. Let's jump on. It is, yeah.
It's a good thing. And a thing worth saying, just a simple introduction to what SPY is that in the simplest terms, is as that graph goes up, a lot of stocks, especially registered with NASDAQ, they're going to go up as well. And when that goes down, they will also go down. If you look at the SPY graph, you can just Google it. Back in March, you just see it drop like almost 100 or more at that point. I can't remember the precise number for March. And then it's just been trickling up since then. And then recently, it's come on the other side of that curve and it started coming down, and today was the worst dip we've seen in it since we started trading. And that means, if anything, as Will was saying, actually, having trust in your own due diligence and how you research your stock and why you're in it in the first place is most important in those times, because it's not always your fault. You just have to be able to go with it, have confidence in what you're investing in, and go from there. We're all learning, and we're all just seeing how it goes.
Yes, I think it's worth noting that the S&P 500 or the $ SPY is one of the probably most useful tools you can have as a trader to either gauge just general market sentiment, or whether you're going to have simply a good or bad day. I mean, I woke up this morning. So for us in the UK, waking up in the morning means waking up at 5 a.m. US time, when the S&P is a US-based tracker fund. So it tracks 500 large companies, right? So included in it are the 10 largest companies like Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, Tesla, and their share price. So the thing we looked at this morning was, I think it was Will, or the Honky Stonk Man, woke up and posted in our group chat, oh shit, the S&P 500's dropped, I think it was 3 points first thing this morning.
No, I think during the whole pre-market, it at one point it dropped by 7, which I mean, it's not unusual, but based on what's been happening in the past couple of days, I put 2 and 2 together and knew what would happen to the rest of our stocks. Yeah,
it's not so much what's happened today. It's the course of the last few days. The S&P's seen consistent drops over the last week or so, nearly. I mean, it's a bit more nuanced than that, but that's more or less what's been happening. But it can be used as a gauge of general confidence in the stock market by big investors. The people who will buy this kind of tracker fund, you can tell whether they're confident in the investability of the large companies in the US stock market, and those companies sort of represent how the country's economy is doing. So as a retail investor such as ourselves, it might not seem extremely relevant at first glance, but it is just a very, very useful gauge. And you will see as you see drops of maybe half to 1 point in that S&P graph, you can notice a trend. A lot of stocks across the Nasdaq and New York Stock Exchange will more or less follow its trajectory. Of course, the move is greatly exaggerated, but yeah, we've seen some quite extreme moves in the last few days in comparison to what we've seen recently, and I think it's had a few people worried. Yeah, I think it's had a lot of people worried. I'm sure we're going to talk.
The way that I stay calm, so I think all of us really, because it was very easy today to wake up, and I think controlling your, I spoke about earlier, controlling your emotions on a day like this is extremely difficult, because you're waking up, you're seeing, most of my swings were down 10-20%, and it's how do you stay calm in that sort of situation. And the first thing I do is, first thing, like you said, I look at the SPY, and I've got a plan for how that's going to go. Is it going to drop further? So I'll talk about exact numbers in a bit, but I look at the SPY. The SPY was down. My stocks were down. Experienced Twitter accounts, so experienced traders on Twitter, they were all down as well. And at that point, I look back and I think there's nothing I've done. Nothing's changed in what I've done. The entire market looks like it's down. So let's just sit back, wait for opportunities to come to us. Sit on your hands. In days like this, you don't want to be forcing trades and trying to chase anything just because you've lost a lot of money. You want to just sort of sit back and wait for things to recover, wait for a floor to be found, wait for some level of support on the SPY before you start loading in again on these dips. Normally I recommend buying dips, buying ugly, but on a day like this where you don't know what the floor is going to be, I think you've got to be really cautious about when you're adding. And, this is why it's useful to look at the SPY graph. If you can tell where the support is, and if it's bounced off support, you think, okay, it's bounced off support, I think we're going to have some upward motion here, so let's start loading up on some of these dips. I mean, I caught some good ones today, ABML, ALPP, I got some pretty much fuzz out. ABML was at 1.6, which, it's not been there for ages. That's what, a drop in like 75% of its share price. So catching that just at the same time as I saw the SPY bounce, it made me a lot of money in sort of like a day trade. But that was just because I had the free funds there. I know a lot of people didn't and couldn't capitalize on it. But I think my main point is watch SPY, watch what's happening to other traders, and look at the entire market. It's not just your stock that's down. Yeah. It was the entire market. I saw people saying, why is CBBT down? Why is TRCH down? It's not just that stock. It's the general market. I couldn't find one in the first 10 minutes that was up. And I did look.
I mean, I think it says volumes that things on top winners list today were up, 30%?
Yeah, that's usually what I sent to our group earlier.
Yeah,
so like the top winners were 30, anywhere to 40%, and then you go to top losers, and it's awful.
Yeah, yeah. I think Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry, I was just going to clarify a few things that Will said for people who might not be aware. What we mean by support, perhaps.
Yeah, that's crossed my mind.
It's a very commonly used term in trading. It's one of the key things is learning where support falls on the graph. And I think if people want to learn about that kind of thing, we can do an explanation of that at another point. I think it's a very, very useful thing to know. But basically what we're talking about is when we talk about bouncing off support, we're talking about trends, averages, and where the stock finds its bottom, or where the graph bottoms out but then bounces off as people support it. And today was a good example for some shares and some funds about that kind of thing. So I think Will mentioned that a lot of things perhaps dropped, quote, without reason today, other than the SPY dropping. I think that's quite an important point. A lot of people say, again, why did TRCH drop? Why is CBBT falling through the floor, etc.? You know, people use very emotive language about this kind of thing. Shortest answer: there was no news for these stocks. Again, catching that bottom on these was very lucrative for some people today, but it's not possible for everyone. I didn't have any free funds to capitalize on this, and I kicked myself for it. Cash is a position, and I failed to maintain that one. But I
know a lot of people don't keep cash really, and it is one of the important things. It doesn't matter how much you stress it to people. Keep cash, keep cash, keep cash. I know in the back of everyone's mind is this cash is sitting there doing nothing
just
when it
have
could
cash,
be making money. Especially in a bull market where you're seeing stocks rise every single day, you think, well, why is my cash just sitting there? And the people who did keep cash sitting there for an emergency today had a really good day. They're probably the only people who finished green today, you know, because they added up. They were able to add on. They were able to do some day trades. I saw some really good day trades that were done today. And it was all people who had this cash as a backup, just in case, you know, any big dips, they can capitalize on it.
That's all good, well and good. Well, you were saying earlier, you mentioned you were going to go into just some quick numbers regarding the SPY. Do you just want to quickly highlight those, and then we can just move on to sort of what we think is going to happen in the very short term and the long term over the next couple of days, couple of weeks?
Yeah, so when I was watching the SPY, really, I had some areas where I was thinking we could either get to here or here. These are where the supports are. I wanted to see bounces off these areas before getting a reversal. So the first thing is when the SPY was dropping, I was looking at this sort of 383 to 385 area, which we kept sort of lingering around over the past couple of days. And the lowest we would get is just above 383, and then we'd have a little bit of a rebound. But if you looked at the graph as a total, it was just descending. It was just having lower lows, lower highs and lower lows, and it was nasty to look at. So when it did break the 383 today, we dropped back down to that second level of support that I was watching out, which is the 380 to 379. Clearly, that's a much stronger support for the SPY at the moment because it showed that everything was oversold, and we bounced off that level just after pre-market, and we started rising up from there. We went straight up to 385, so we went straight up to the next, back up to that level of support at 385. And then we started rising up from there, and we finished green for the day. So that was what I was looking for. And when I made my dip buy ads, they were just as I saw us bouncing off that 380. So I saw we were bouncing off to 380. I thought, okay, it looks like even if it's not a permanent rise, it looks like we're going to have our next peak. So I played a dip buy, a day trade on ABML and ALPP on both of those. And as it went up, then I sold. But it turns out I could have not sold because it did a full reversal. But yeah, sorry, that's what I was looking out for really when you talk about some of the numbers. But I think what you said, Josh, moving on to what's coming. So does anyone want to give a bit of a background? What do we think is going to happen?
Well, I thought you were you're the one with the theory of a big reversal, aren't you?
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll do mine.
You go first, and I've got a different set of things that I want to bring in.
Yeah, I'll leave this one to you two guys. I know Will's been doing a bunch of trying out his SPY graph analysis, haven't you? All that kind of stuff.
Well, it's important as well.
Yeah.
The thing I will say, just in retrospect, very quickly, is it's a lot easier to know where the support of the stocks you're in are when you've been in them for a while and when you've already been looking at them for a while, because you see where the graph actually goes. You see where, especially if you got into it early. And that is the case for Will with ABML, especially because we've been looking at that for quite a long time. You eventually you come to terms with the ability to just sort of spot where support is by looking at candlesticks and graphs and things like that. But it really comes from being involved with the stock itself and doing your own due diligence and things like that. And for stuff like that, I sort of specialize in posting articles, posting videos on how to read graphs, how to do due diligence. That's what I want to focus on because I'm keen on the learning aspect. But yeah, so we'll go ahead with what do you think is going to happen tomorrow?
Yeah, just to add on to what you said, I mean, just to start off with, I mean, the good things is if it's gone down by 75% for no reason, chances are it's going to at least bounce back up. So, you know, it's things like that. In OTC, it's very volatile. So if you're having large drops and there's no reason for it, it's still a good stock. Like ABML's a really solid investment, a long-term investment. If it's dropped that much, chances are it's going to come back up, you know. So it's and then start looking at support and resistance and things like that. But we can go into more detail on that. So what I think is coming up, so I've had so many questions on my Twitter saying, is this the pullback, is this the correction? And the issue is, where this comes from is, when the market pulls back very slightly, every single bear who's been hiding away in their cave for the past, you know, year and a half during this bull market, is going to come out and say, I told you so, this is, you know, I'm laughing at you all, you're losing money, I told you it was going to pull back. I've seen so much of that today, and I did a tweet about it saying, just block those people, because, you know, people are losing money today. It's nothing to joke about, nothing to laugh about. Let's support everyone. So what I think is, I don't think this is the big pullback. I said that. I said, I think we're coming to a bottom. I said that earlier in the day because it looked like, not only on the SPY graph did it look like that 380 was a really solid support, we also made a higher low, which meant that we're starting to do a little bit of a reversal. I was also just sort of using a bit of common sense. You're looking at stocks like, you know, like ABML, like ALPP, which are just at prices which they really shouldn't be at. We're looking at TRCH, which was at 4.8 last week, and it went to low twos. There's no way stocks like that should be at those prices.
Good
so
company.
Using that with the fact that we've just hit a support level, a quite low support level as well on the SPY graph, and I thought we're not really going to pull back much more here. I think we've got a bigger pullback coming later on in the year, but I think we got a bit more of a bull run to go before that. So I think we've got a run through the 400s. I'm going to be starting to evaluate my position again at 420, 430. And so if you do look at the SPY graph, which I really highly recommend all of you to just once a day, just have a look at what it's doing. It would really help you out with some of your trades. Once you say it gets to that 420, 430 mark, I just start having a little bit of a reevaluation because I think we could get a larger pullback. You've seen how much this pullback has affected people. So I'm just saying for the next pullback, which will happen, there will be more pullbacks. There will be more instances like this week. It happens. That's what the normal market is like. Have cash as a position and take profits. It doesn't matter what someone on Twitter is saying, you know, if you take profits, then you're a coward. It doesn't matter what someone's saying. Take profits. It's all numbers on a screen until you've withdrawn it, until it's in your bank account, you're paying off real life debts. You need to be taking profits. You need to be having cash as a position, ready to pick up these dips and ready to pick up any of these good plays that are coming through. So I think we're bullish for now. I'm bullish for March and April. We've got some good things coming. I mean, there's the new stimulus checks, you know, the fact that COVID's finally disappearing. I think we've got enough catalyst to push us through the 400s at least. I don't think this is the crash, as everyone keeps saying. I don't think this is the pullback. I mean, this is just one of the healthy pullbacks that we had due to the fact that a lot of smaller stocks have been around a lot. And I think we're going on a bullish run again, as I said, through to 420 on the SPY. I mean, I'll be starting to evaluate my positions myself. Will you guys be doing the same?
Yeah, so I was actually going to just quickly ask Josh, because I know your position on this, Will, and you've just put it very, very well. I don't think, did any of us sell any of our long-term swings today? Josh? Did we sell out of any of them? I don't think we did we?
I didn't sell a majority of them. I sold partial of Gaxi today, very partial. And at the time, I wasn't 100% sure if it was a panic sell. It's more because we've been taking profits, and at that particular moment, I was looking at it. I was 150% up in Gaxi at the point I'm at now, before it started rising again. Yeah. So I did take partial out of it now as a security reason, and because I didn't have many free funds. But that's the thing. You have to look at where you're at, and as Will has been saying, the time of OTCs running 400, 500% as an exaggeration is probably going to come to an end in the not too far distant future.
I mean,
so it's important to take profits if that's what you think.
I think a lot of people quit trading today. Yeah.
Yep.
I think the day. Yeah, the days of penny stocks running, I think, are perhaps over for now. Without Catalyst, that is. A lot of people who've been forced out today who joined during the Wall Street bets craze, they will have, and all respect to them, I think it's been a good thing that's happened overall. The little guys won a little bit back against the big guys, but the house always wins. It's come back with a vengeance. And we'll talk more about this in a minute when we talk about Trading 212 and perhaps how the hedge funds might have a role in what's happened today, along with platforms, restrictions, that kind of thing. But the house has won a little bit today. A lot of the little guys, retail investors like ourselves, perhaps have been forced out. I'm very confident in my plays. I know that Torchlight, for instance, TRCH, good company, it's got a merger coming up. I'm in at 2.6, I think. I got in that way early. It went up to 4.8, but I have a fairly conservative price estimate or price target of $5 to $6 within, I think it was 3 months. And I mean that dropping to where it was today, it doesn't. Of course, it affected me. I mean, I think it would affect anyone seeing. I mean, this morning I was down 27% on open. 27% of my portfolio gone. Of course it affected me, but you've got to remove all emotion from that equation somehow. You've got to understand why it's happening. It works the other way too. If you see, in relation to the SPY, if you see all your share prices drop across the board, there's no need to necessarily panic sell them at all. Panic selling is not good. It's not good for you. It's what causes people to get into trouble. And sometimes that drop can be attributed to someone selling 500 of their stake in the SPY, some hedge fund somewhere selling 500 of their stake, and it's a weird relationship that these stocks have with it, because as the SPY creeps ever higher, confidence in markets creeps ever higher, yet shares in good companies will drop or not rise as much, but then drop an awful lot, like they have today on an SPY drop of, what was it? It's got to be less than 7% today, right? What was the actual percentage? More like, low single digits.
What was the most it dropped today?
7 points.
7 points.
7 points. Yeah, exactly. It's a minuscule drop in percentage wise in comparison to the amount your shares dropped. It's a crazy world. It's
yeah, it really factors up.
Yeah,
that links in nicely to something I was going to say. Part of my more long-term plan. The US in general, the US government at the minute, they're planning to introduce more stimulus checks into the market, and a lot of people are happy about this, and that is a good thing. There's a very good article. Hang on, I'll link this later on my Twitter. There's a very good article by Mohammed El-Arian, and it goes into a bit more detail on it. While that one's a bit pessimistic, but ideally you'd think more money into it means a good thing. I don't want to go too much into the different schools of thought regarding it, but it's either going to really pump up the market for a while, as Will says, we'll have a bullish market for quite a bit longer, or it's ultimately just going to cause it to come crashing down. And I just don't really know. That's the thing. We're all saying our predictions.
None of us can see the future,
but we don't know what's going to happen.
None of us can see the future.
They are informed predictions. That's all we're doing.
Yeah, of course. I mean, no one really knows what's going to happen. You can do as much technical analysis on the graph as much as you want. At the end of the day, if something wants to happen, something wants to happen. I think you're right on partially both, Josh. I think it'll probably be bullish. New money coming in, COVID, so many catalysts, like I said, will pump up the market. And then I'm predicting in a year or two, maybe 2 years, 3 years. I think we're going to have a massive market crash. I mean, the economy's going to catch up with what's been going on.
Yeah, that's your big bold statement, isn't it? Over the next couple of years.
Yeah, so that's my boldest prediction that I've got. That I'm not sure a lot of people would agree with. But at the end of the day, if you prepare for it and it doesn't happen, you've
lost nothing. You've lost nothing.
Yeah, you've lost. And being prepared for this sort of stuff.
Realistically,
I also think it's. Yeah, sorry.
You carry on.
I also think, based on OTC, what you said earlier, I think OTC will be okay. I think it'll not the ones on Trading 212, which we'll go into in more detail.
We'll go into that in a minute.
Be gone, Satan.
It'll slow down. It it'll slow down, but it won't. I don't think it'll go away. You know, like I said, there's still going to be new traders coming in saying, "How can I make money?" You know, OTC is a good way to make a lot of money, but it comes with its risks. And when OTC decides to, you know, have a bit of a crash moment, a lot of people lose a lot of money and lose a lot of confidence, and that's the risk you've got to take. And just another point, I know you mentioned about panic selling. I didn't want to jump in and interrupt, but I had a lot of questions today on my Twitter saying, should I sell this position to put more into this position? So, for example, should I sell, you know, my ABML to jump into ALPP? For example, let's say that. So they're panic selling one position to jump into another position that's down. And that's something I'd never recommend as well. And that's why, you know, again, coming back to it, if you had the free funds, you wouldn't have to do that. But bottom line, like we all said, just don't panic sell. Like, unless you've got a reason, you've got a reason, you think there's no upcoming catalysts, you know, there's no way that this is going to reverse back up to, you know, what it should do, or I think it's going to keep going down, then that's fine. Reevaluate position, put the money in a more useful place. But if nothing's changed, if you've done your DD, the catalysts are still there. Don't panic sell.
Yeah,
don't let a dropping graph panic you.
The panic selling should it should realistically never happen, because one of the main things we preach as traders is to only invest what you can afford to lose. Manage your risk well. It's all very well seeking advice on trades, but we can never recommend you to do anything. If you need to panic sell because you see something absolutely sorry for using this phrase, but shitting the bed. If you see something absolutely knifing downwards, you have to evaluate your position. Ideally, you could afford to lose all that money. Say it was going 100% down to a value of 0. When you put the money into that trade, you should be okaying that with yourself. You should be preparing for every eventuality. Panic selling is quite a paradox in trading, because it happens, but no one ever wants it to happen in the first place. You go in saying, "Oh, I would never be the kind to panic sell," but it is human nature, and it's something that is one of the biggest obstacles to overcome as a new trader, is the urge not to sell like that. Yeah,
we've all been there.
We've all been there. I've panic sold. I absolutely have, and it's worked out badly for me. It's worked out badly for me almost every single time.
Speaking of panic, trading 2-on-2 in the last week and a half.
Oh gosh.
So, yes, a lot of people won't have been affected by this, so we are just going to run through the very basics of it. What has essentially happened strictly relates to penny stocks, over the counters, OTCs, things like that. And I honestly think Will is very well attuned to talk about this, because you're at the forefront of fighting against it and really having a go at trading 2-on-2 about the disgusting way that they're acting.
I'm fighting for the little guys, yeah. I mean, you know, where did it start? So I purchased CBBT on the way down. Thought I caught myself a good dip buy, and I would have done it in any other circumstances. Until then, about 10 minutes later, I got a notification on my Twitter from a trader saying, "Do you know why trading 2-on-2 have restricted CBBT?" And I thought, that can't be right. I've just purchased some. So I had a look, and I tried to put a buy order through, and instantly I found out that was not the case. I did a bit more quick sort of searching. I wanted to try and just make sure it wasn't just me, it wasn't just a couple of people. And I found
I tried it with you as well, and it didn't work.
Yeah, I tried.
A company called Gatsy, so the ticker's called Gatsy, so Galaxy Next Generation. Also the same with CLIS, and also the same with ATVK. And there were the 4 straight away that I saw. So there was no notification, there was no warning about this, there was no message saying that, as of this date we're going to stop you being able to buy. They were just set to sell only, which means you could only sell your current position. They couldn't close it, they can't close your position for you. But if you see the stock that you own that no one can buy it, then that's going to cause panic. That's going to cause people to panic sell, and rightly so. I couldn't blame anyone who sold on that first day. Yeah. I held personally. I'd never dump on my Twitter guys. I never would. If I'm buying something, I'm sticking out with those guys. I'll tell them if I sell, and that'll only be at a high because I'm taking profits, and I'll always inform it. But if people are seeing that you can't buy this stock on trading 2-on-2, they're going to panic. So the first thing I did was just check with some American traders. So I messaged some of the guys that I know who used different platforms, and I wanted to make sure that you could still purchase them on other platforms, and it wasn't that, like, you know, what's been happening with some penny stocks recently with like COUV, so COUV, where they actually ended up getting suspended. So I wanted to make sure that wasn't the case here, because there was no notification, there was no reason why. And no, they could all trade CBBT, ATVK, you know, the whole of them. They could trade them okay. So I put out a tweet and I said, look, trading 2-on-2, we demand answers. This is market manipulation, because in my eyes it was. And it, after being pushed and pushed and pushed, and the tweet did gather up a lot of attention. And I have full respect for every single person who retweeted, who acted trading 2-on-2, demanded answers like myself. And they responded saying that they've put this on sell only because these stocks have suddenly become, their words, no longer penny stock exempt. For anyone who doesn't know what penny stock exempt is, there's a bunch of criteria that a stock needs to account for. And does anyone have, you know, those stats to hand?
I can chip in a little. I can get the actual ones up, but I can chip in a little there. Basically, at the SEC, they're the ones who essentially do the security of finances. They monitor how trading and loads of other things, but in terms of trading, they monitor it and they ensure securities are in place for both the traders and then the people supplying them in the first place. Penny stocks have a lot of security issues with them related to their price and to the companies that own them, and the way in which they get listed as well.
It's just because they can be easily manipulated. It's almost exclusively for that reason. So you have to meet criteria to
get the money.
So you have to have criteria to be traded, which is the penny stock exempt rules. Yeah.
So there's usually with a trader, say we'll use trading 2-on-2 as an example. Something like that would need loads of securities in place to trade penny stocks securely. However, then we get to the phrase penny stock exempt. When a stock meets a certain criteria, I'll just say one of them, when it breaks the $5 mark, it is then penny stock exempt, which means those securities I just mentioned are lifted and you can trade the stock. Trading 2-on-2 was saying that these stocks were no longer penny stock exempt or under revision for it, because, as we'll say, CBBT was never penny stock exempt.
However,
and they claimed it was under revision.
However, Clickstream, added earlier in the week, has been penny stock exempt since the 7th of January. So is still penny stock exempt. Well. And they've frozen it.
It was shocking, really. I mean,
that's just a quick rundown of just what it means. It just means penny stock exempt means it's a penny stock that anyone can trade with fewer securities based on it. So things like trading 2-on-2, so they can trade it. So carry on.
Okay, cheers. No, that's a good explanation, and I mean, like you said, John, that you know, these weren't ever penny stock exempt. Some of these were never penny stock exempt, and I'm looking at, you know, CBBT. It was never penny stock exempted. You know, the revenue coming in is coming in from the acquisition, which we're going to talk about a lot later. But, you know, it didn't meet the criteria. So the question was asked, really, and I raised this question to trading 2-on-2, which was, why did you allow this to ever be on your systems? Why did you ever allow people to trade this stock if it was never penny stock exempt? If it was under revision from the start, why were you allowing people to put in? You know, there was no message saying, by the way, this stock is under revision. I mean, you know, a lot of people who have jumped on trading recently, you know, a lot of people wouldn't even know what penny stock exempt is, and the fact that trading 2-on-2 officially can't be trading stocks that aren't penny stock exempt.
Yeah.
So, you know, if they were never penny stock exempt, they should have never been allowed to buy. You know, these stocks were added in November last year. It doesn't take 4 months for a company to, you know, realize, oh, we made a mistake. So it suggests at a certain point of the listing, they were penny stock exempt. The words no longer suggest that at some point they were, which is just false.
Yeah.
And like you said as well, that CLIS as well was penny stock exempt and should have been available to trade, but it was restricted, which suggests to me that, you know, that they didn't really know what they were doing when they were blocking these stocks.
Yeah.
Yep. And the main issue we're saying this, the main issue we had was really the lack of notice, the complete lack of notice or even alerting anyone. The information regarding penny stock exemption, it is there. You can, if you Google for it, you can find on the Trading 2-on forums that people say that they are not and what that means. However, people like us and to new traders especially, they don't even know that exists. Yeah. And yes, the fault partly would lie on us in that, but It's simply unfair in the simplest terms. But the issue is that there was no notice at all. There was not even a day before were they saying we're going to close by this particular stock.
Yes.
None of that at all, and it's continued. It happened more today as well.
Yeah, I'd like to quickly. Oh, sorry, do you mind?
Sorry, let
yeah.
speak.
Sorry. Yeah, we need a little clicker, raise our hands kind of thing, don't we? Or a script. I don't know. I think it's been good. Nah, scripts. YOLO. I think you can draw parallels with what happened with Robinhood. I mean, it's nowhere near as severe. The Robinhood situation had big publicity when they halted trading for GME and AMC. The difference is with this, there was no notice. People had no idea it was going to happen. It happened randomly during the day. Robinhood had the courtesy to at least tell people before market open, right? And yeah, it caused massive panic setting.
Let's take away the word courtesy. There's nothing about what Robinhood did.
No, there isn't. I'm speaking merely in plain terms, right? I do not condone what they did, but absolutely. The issue here is stocks or penny stock exempt. Trading 212 today has restricted a further 6. Was it? Cloud Commerce and Tool Rigger Sciences a bunch further.
Some of them were penny stock exempt. There was at least
one
that is penny stock exempt.
Exactly,
well.
But they've restricted more. What happens tomorrow? I don't think we should speak too much longer on this subject. We've got about 20 minutes left. But what happens tomorrow? I know a position we are all in, DSGT. This is one of our classic longs. That's not penny stock exempt. One thing I want to draw attention to, though, things like CBBT and DSG, which we all believe have massive upside and long-term potential, right? They're not, just because they're restricted from trading on 212 doesn't mean they're restricted elsewhere. If you are holding a position on trading 212 in one of these stocks which has been restricted to buy, it won't be closed. You can still hold those stocks. You just can't buy more of them. People on other platforms still can. I think ATVK has seen a massive sell-off and not recovered, but CBBT did bounce quite well off of its bottom the other day. I seem to remember. I believe Will did a little day trade on it before it all got out.
It has very strong support at 0.13, so it pretty much bounced up around that region.
Yes, exactly. Just because it's been restricted doesn't mean you should sell. I'm still in a couple of these positions myself. I'm not selling anytime soon because they're not going to close my position. They cannot do that. And if they ever did, I think it would be the end of the platform, to be honest. But do be aware that this could happen to other stocks. I mean, it's seemingly random at the moment. It could happen. Yeah,
I think it will. But there's no about it. But some of the ones they restricted today, some of the reasoning that they gave behind it is just that there's unusual volatility. And this is stemming back to what we said about GME and AMC, what Robinhood did, and it's that whole debate about whether they can do that, whether they can make that decision.
Why didn't they hold every other stock that dropped 50% today?
Exactly.
They can, but the
DSG, not penny stock exempt, dropped 13%. Fubo dropped 25%. Didn't hold that, did they?
No, and this is like you said with PSC. There's so many stocks on at the moment on Trading 212 which aren't penny stock exempt, which might suddenly get restricted with no notice. And I think as a Twitter group in total, I mean everyone, even if you're looking saying, well, I'm not in CBBT, I'm not in GAXY, I don't need to push for this. I mean everyone who trades using Trading 212 should be pushing Trading 212 or moving brokers, because what they're doing is actually not right, and it will happen to your stock. It will happen to your stock. So it might not be happening right now. Yeah, exactly. So it will happen to your stock. And I think, like you said, you can't make a change during trading hours like this. And you can't ignore your customers as well. They went quiet after they made the announcement. You can't do that.
Yeah.
So I'm chasing it up. That's my current thing. I'm chasing this up at the moment with everyone I can do. So I'm speaking to the Financial Ombudsman Service, and it's hopefully being picked up by the Financial Conduct Authority. I have received a reply from my initial email to Trading 212, but it's just one of those generic ones. They made it sound not generic, but it's one of those generic ones saying that basically, due to the number of small orders that are being put through into stocks like CBBT, etc., then they're suddenly saying that it's making it look like market manipulation, was their words.
I mean,
so it's ridiculous what they're doing. So I am chasing this up. I am, for the little guys on Twitter, I am doing my best to try and just get through the message. But
my theory is that that it's something to do with their clearinghouse personally, but I do think Trading 212 have made a big mistake here, and it will haunt them. But I'm hesitant to lay the blame squarely on them. It's back when the GME AMC thing happened, they also halted trading of them. It wasn't just Robinhood. Trading 212 did it, but it was their clearinghouse that did the problems. And Trading 212 is quite unique in that it's been a loss-making company up until last year, I think. They offer so many different things for trade and commission-free that I'm wondering if perhaps they're starting to see the stress with all these OTC and penny stocks from new people flooding the platform. That's potentially an explanation. I think we've got about 15 minutes left. We could run over a little bit, and we've got a bit to cover, but quickly I wondered, Trading 212, I think we're all pretty set on moving soon.
Yes,
quickly, any recommendations for platforms? I know Will is keen on interactive brokers, and explain in a second why that is, but I'd like to quickly plug what I'm looking to move to, and that is a Fineco Bank, or interactive brokers. I haven't quite made my mind up yet.
For me,
but there's 2 UK based ones. Do you want to go into what interactive brokers does very briefly? I won't go to what Fineco does. People can look it up and decide for themselves what they want to do, but I think these are some of the best ones we've found.
Yeah, I think bottom line is, and if you want to put it in simple terms, they're not restricting any stocks, and also you get a lot more options for how many penny stocks you can trade. So, the normal retail trader on Trading 212 has been missing these TSMPs, these ENZCs, these runners that they've had, but you can't trade them. On these brokers, you can. And, you can trade in multi-currency as well. So I know a lot of people get affected by FX impact, and then you don't get affected on these. I'm by no way promoting these. My message is simple: get off Trading 212. Not only, they're commission-free, sure, but I think you pay for it being commission-free in a lot of ways, where if you just had a very small commission, I think you probably wouldn't have as many of the problems that they've got. So I think, it's commission-free, but are you willing to pay a small commission for not only a better platform, but more options and less chance of it going down at 2:30 every day, which I think we've all experienced. So it's those sort of things. But my brief message would be just get off Trading 212, try other brokers. I know a lot of people are messaging me saying, how can I set up an account with interactive brokers? If that's something you'd like to see from us all, like showing you around some other different brokers, if that's something that would make you feel more comfortable, we're more than happy to do so. Just let us know, because I understand it's a new territory, it's a new trading app, it can be a little scary at times, but at the end of the day, we can't let Trading 212. Well, in my opinion, I'm not letting Trading 212 do this, so I'm going to jump off before it starts doing anything more. I'm going to be holding my current positions. I'm not selling anything, but I'm not adding any new positions on Trading 212.
Yeah, we're in some very long players, and we can't just take our stick out the mud, as to say. But moving brokers is it's a risk reward. It's entirely up to you. It's a risk reward system.
I think I'll keep my longs in 212. I'll open an account with another one and just. I think it's good to own multiple brokerage accounts, just to put it out there. I think having separate portfolios is not necessarily a bad thing. If you have multiple monitors at home and you can keep track of all your things, that's great. These other brokers have good tools if you're day trading. 212 is quite good.
Not only that, but you could have like your longs in one broker and then your day trades in another. So you're not. I know when I'm having a bad swing day, I might have had a really good day trade day, but it's making it look like I've had a bad day. So there's multiple reasons.
I think I'd lean towards keeping my longs in 212 if I was going to keep the account, because I don't want to sell them and I already have them in 212. Plus, you can't transfer the shares to another broker like you can between bank investment accounts. So I might keep my longs in 212, move my day trading somewhere else. That's what I'm personally looking at.
Yeah, and I'd probably move future longs into a new trader. That's for me, just because I really am done with them when I'm able to get out of my positions.
Yeah. Speaking of longs,
with Trading 212, it just seemed like small things being added on and added on and added on, that's slowly making the experience not as good. When I first joined and started using it was fantastic. I had no problems with it. It just seemed like that, there was a couple of instances with CFD, which we can go into detail on another time. But
we can do a whole section of a video about CFD, exactly what it is and what went on, because I feel like we'd have to explain a fair bit about it to get into that. But
yeah,
as Johnny was saying, speaking of longs,
how's your favorite
everyone's been
one,
waiting
Will
for.
Furu?
So just with CBBT, because obviously some people listening might not have heard of it, even though it's just plastered the walls of Twitter.
I'm doing my best.
Yeah, what is CBBT? Like, what is the company?
Why
are we all going on about it so much, basically?
Yeah, so I'd like to start and just say I'm not a promoter, and I'm not paid to promote CBBT in any sort of way possible. The only reason I mention CBBT on my Twitter account is because I can see the potential in it, and for a number of reasons. So, what are CBBT? So, Cerebane Biotech is really a company that focuses on the discovery of products for the treatment of Alzheimer's. Have you guys got any family members who suffer with Alzheimer's? Or I do, and I know it's something that's really important. If we can bottom out a treatment for Alzheimer's, for me, that'd be not only a good investment on my money, but also a good investment on health in the future. So I know this is a really strong bit. I know Biden's planning on pumping money into the Alzheimer's industry. We're looking at the market value of Alzheimer's disease treatment to exceed 13 billion by 2023. Which is ridiculous, really. And CBBT do have a patent pending device, which is now in the process of being prepared for initial clinical trials all across Europe. But I'm going to ask the question that you're thinking. What's so special about CBBT? What's so special about Cerebane? I'm sure there's loads of different companies which are making Alzheimer's devices. There's loads of ones trying to treat Alzheimer's. What's so special about Cerebane Biotech? So I'm going to tell you a little bit about a company called PKG and how it links in. So PKG is a company that was founded in 1989, and they do a bunch of different technology advancements, but the main thing for me is they recently became a key manufacturer for something called ClearMask, and ClearMask is the first FDA-approved COVID protecting mask, and it allows you to actually, like in the name, the ClearMask, it allows you to actually see emotion, which I mean is, if you're trying to talk to let's say a student who's deaf. I mean, being able to actually lip read while still being COVID protected is an absolute amazing piece of technology. It's an amazing invention. And as I said, it's the first.
It's essential for people who are deaf. They've really struggled throughout lockdowns and throughout the pandemic in general.
Yeah, I completely agree. And PKG, with the revenue of ClearMask and their own revenue, we're looking at about 50 million in estimated revenue. So they're a good company that's been around for 30 years. We're talking over 100 employees with 50 million in estimated revenue. Now, where does this link in with CBBT? For anyone who doesn't know, or anyone who's been living under a rock, Cerebane is acquiring PKG. And this was announced when CBBT was sub 1 cent. So I think the question that I asked myself when I saw this was, why would PKG allow a 30-year-old company to be acquired, not merged, but acquired by a 1 cent stock? Because they could have gone public anyway, really. They're a big company. They could have gone public a number of ways. But why would you allow a 1 cent company to acquire you? And I think maybe they know the potential in not only CBBT as a company, but also in their device to treat Alzheimer's. Their device to treat Alzheimer's has been in works for 7-8 years now, since 2013. So that, they know a bit about what they're doing. It's been in development. So there must be some level of confidence behind this device and behind this company for PKG to say, yeah, we want to be acquired, not merged. And that's the main thing for me, not merged, because you're looking at, Torchlight, which is another thing we can get onto another day, but they're having a merger with a company that wants to go public. But because they're, less in value and they're not as valuable of a company, they're only getting 25% of the merger. Whereas we're talking about Cerebane Biotech getting 100%. It's an acquisition. So you've got to wonder, why would they do that? And for me, it's they know the potential in not only the device, but in CBBT as a company. So I think when this acquisition isn't finally announced, CBBT will have 50 million in instant revenue. That's not, coming in over the portion of a couple of months, the rest of the year. Like some, having projected revenues. This is instant $50 million in instant revenue. And Cerebane have said themselves, as soon as the acquisition is announced, they're going to be doing all of their filings, they're going to be doing all of their updated revenues. This is going to come out straight after the acquisition. I wouldn't be surprised if they're doing it in the background while this is happening, and they're going to announce it at the same time. And do you know any other stocks that are currently trading at 16 cents, 18 cents, or whatever CBBT finished at, that have this much revenue? Do you know any? Because I don't know any that have that much revenue.
And the thing is, do you know any other stocks that are acquiring a company that has a share price over $100?
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So
to the
for
point
me,
where a lot of people straight up don't believe it, and that's where a lot of the controversies come in. A lot of people just saying it's not going to happen. There's a lot of bears on the subject, really.
yeah, and I think to answer that one on when if it is going to happen, for me, Sarah Bain Biotech wouldn't have spent 700k on doing this acquisition if it's going to fall through in the last minute. PKG, the boss of PKG, has been liking CBBT. They've been liking Sarah Bain's LinkedIn posts, been liking their Instagram posts, their Twitter posts. That it's not one of these things that's behind closed doors. It's not like a Lucid Motors situation. This is out in the open. They're liking each other's posts. They're sharing each other's posts. They're giving updates for each other. So it is out in the open, and there's no doubt about it. The only people bashing it would be bears. But there is no doubt that this acquisition is going to happen.
Another thing, as well as all of this social media interaction they've had, is even despite everything going on at the minute, these respective CEOs of PKG and CBBT, a lot of people will have seen, they met in person very recently, and at that very same time, at one of the other offices, the management teams were meeting up and being together in the same location in all of these times. And at the minute, for most things, you can do a lot of it over a Zoom call. That is how most business is done nowadays, especially in the light of the last year. So it's something very special that they're meeting up in person about. And they've already been saying the acquisition's going to be happening anyway. The evidence is far more towards it than against it.
Yeah, for me, it's in the final stages. I mean, it's just a matter of, is it going to be next week, the week after? For me, that is anyway. I don't want anyone to rely on that and say it is going to happen in the next week or two. But I know they're very up to date on their shareholders. The CEO, Eric, really does care about shareholders. He doesn't have to do regular shareholder updates. He doesn't have to do that. It's not something that he's obligated to do, but he does it anyway because he cares about shareholders. So I'd be looking at it and thinking, if I was Sarah Bain Biotech, if I was looking at the market at the moment and seeing what it was like, I wouldn't announce an acquisition while the market was this down, while the market was suffering this much. I'd wait for it to settle slightly and then I'd announce it. That's my thought behind it, because as far as I'm concerned, I think when he travelled over there and when he was, when they met in person, like you said, I think that's when the acquisition might have been, a date at least, been finalised. But I don't think they're going to announce it when the market's like this at the moment. I think it will settle and then it will be announced.
Yeah.
And I don't know if either of you guys agree with me, but I certainly wouldn't. If I was the CEO of a company, I wouldn't announce something in this market.
I mean,
it's the wrong time of year as well.
Yeah, it's
for these kind of things. It's Q1, so
yeah. You just have to have patience with this kind of thing. It's going to happen. These are two companies which are broadly involved in what's going on in the world. Mask, very current topic. They're probably busy negotiating some kind of contract with someone, right? And finalizing a merger. They're probably very, very, very busy. But it takes one look at PKG's website. You look at their news section. Top of their PKG Buzz section is a retweet about Sarah Bain Biotech's general business update. I mean, these companies, it's like a high school romance. They're already flirting with each other, and you can see it. They're out in the open. The only thing left is for everyone to see them kissing in the middle of the playground. It's about to. It is. It's literally about to bang. Forgive the term. It's there. It's coming.
We're getting quite caught up in it now.
Just patience. Patience with the why.
Like, and we all really. We believe in it, and it's not even just about belief. It's the fact that we know certain things, and that's what we've been sharing with you. There's a lot more that we can say about it as well.
We know no more than is general knowledge as well. We don't have any inside knowledge. For a full disclaimer, I don't have as large a position in this company as I want to. I sold a lot when I was about 200% up in it, and I wanted to buy the dip, but the trading was restricted by 212.
Yeah,
I was looking for a good entry point because I saw it was gonna bounce before it went again, and then I thought, oh, amazing! It's gone to 0.2, 0.19, 0.18, 0.18, absolute party present. I went to buy restricted, but we're not pumping the stock. We genuinely believe in it. It's something which is quite hard. I think we've all been accused of pumping on Twitter. But it's
You
not.
always
You
do.
just have to. You just have to
Me
look
and
at the
Johnny today
information
were accused
available.
of pumping, just for
At the
saying,
end of
for commenting on two stocks that just held support quite nically in all the
Yeah,
dips today. We were
yeah.
called pumpers.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
At the end of
it's
the
just
day,
the nature of
there
it.
are a lot of promoters. There are. It's the end of the day. There are a lot of promoters. There are a lot of pumpers. And at the end of the day, they're not always a bad thing. If you're in a stock that you believe in and that you think's good, having a promoter or a pumper to push up the share price to go along with the catalyst, it's not the end of the world. I'm certainly not going to complain if someone's pumping up a stock that I know is good. But we're not just pumping it up for the sake of pumping it up. If you do your research on, for me, it doesn't matter if the acquisition happens today or if it happens next month, because at the end of the day, it will happen, and this is what will happen when the acquisition will happen. And also, the other reason I'm so patient on it is because we're looking at one thing in particular, which I spotted a few weeks ago and I did a tweet about. Called institutional ownerships. Now, OTC, over-the-counter stocks, do not have any institutional ownership. No institutions invest in them because they're so volatile, and the fact that they're startup companies. So when I see a company like CBBT, which is down in the 10 cents mark at the moment, which I think is an absolute bargain, but I'd never advise anyone to buy, so don't buy based on that. But when I see a stock down that low that's got 9.9% of its float locked up by an institution, that's 70 million shares by an institution, I think, well, wow, okay, so they acquired their shares back down when the share price was at sort of 0.13, 0.14, and they watched it rise up to 0.47, which was 200% of their what their shares were worth to begin with. So 0.47, they didn't sell then. So why didn't they sell at 0.47? So if I'm following the smart money here, I'm watching and I thought, well, they've sat through the dip and they haven't sold a single share of their 70 million. They've not even partially scaled out. So what do they think is going to happen? They're confident that this is going to go into the dollars. So it's not only, I guess, having belief in a penny stock is a really tough thing, especially when there's so many bears out there. But when there's a 30-year-old company that has belief in this small penny stock, when there's institutions with large portions of the float, which, just to give a bit of a definition on the float is the outstanding shares, so it's how many shares are available to investors. So if you can lock up the float, then that's perfect, because that means you can move the share price with it. So you want really as low of a float as possible, as low outstanding shares as possible, so you can lock up that float. But that was just a bit of a definition there. But if I'm seeing that, as I said, a 30-year-old company has faith in this small penny stock, an institution has enough confidence in this penny stock that they're willing to put a 9.9% stake in 70 million shares in, then I'm thinking, well, okay, so the smart money and the smart companies have got faith in this penny stock. But some guy on Twitter says the acquisition's not going to happen; it's all a phony. So which one am I? For me, which one am I going to follow? I'm going to follow the smart money. These institutions, these hedge people, they don't want to lose money. They're not going to lose money. If they had thought that 47 cents was the max price that it was going to go to, they would have sold then. That is just how they work. So for me, they're waiting for something much bigger. They're waiting for the acquisition. They're waiting for FDA approval on the Alzheimer's device. They're waiting for updated revenues. They're waiting for these catalysts that we're also waiting for. And that, for me, as an investor, gives me confidence, especially in an OTC stock, where, as I said, just not get institutional buyers. It is so rare.
Yeah, I think that's very good. I think that there's also a lot more we could say. I could go into some counter argument stuff, but to be honest, what you said kind of rebuts a lot of it anyway, because the fact is we're waiting for news. But I think that is a good point to bring this little discussion of ours to a close, this little chat of ours.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you look at CBBT sales from their mask alone have the potential to exceed their market cap. I don't see, especially if masks become more of a social norm after this. I have my doubts for the USA, but certainly in Europe, a see-through mask,
especially in hospitality and things like that. I think it could become a norm for the staff.
Yeah, I know, but my parents hate that you can't see people's face.
Yeah,
and there's no clear masks available en masse here. You have to pay 30 quid for a single one. If you want one,
we can do it. It's as I say, we can really talk about this for ages. This is why we've done this, because we talk about this a lot. But I will just say, thanks both of you, because Johnny's the one recording this, and Will is, of course, big brain in this situation.
We're all big brain.
We're all big brain. I
I
mostly focus on like education.
I just post it on Twitter. I post it on Twitter. You guys are more conservative with that, but I want as many people to make money as possible, and that's what we all want. The reason we make stuff like this and the reason we all have Twitter accounts is because we want everyone to make money. And I opened my DMs today because I hated the fact that everyone was losing money, and I saw a lot of things so I'm in a certain amount of Discord, and there was a lot of obviously negative energy today, which is understandable. A lot of people lost a large portion of their portfolio. And for me, I don't want to see that. Just message me and I'll reassure you. I'm still holding the stock. I'm not going to sell on you. So just message me, My DMs are always open. If you're just concerned about stock, I'm willing to reassure you. Or even do an episode like this where I just walk through the DD again so you can understand what you're investing in properly. I always say know what you own. That is one of the most important things to me, because then when it does dip, you're not so worried because you know that you're holding a gem of a stock.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, as I said, we all want you to make money, and we're all going to continue to do that, because for me, making money on your own is lonely. You want everyone else to succeed as well. So at the end of the day, we're always going to help you guys.
Yeah.
And based on that as well, I'm going to tell you, Alpine Full Technologies. I don't know when they're
Oh no!
What I will tell you is,
We're not getting you on whale PP.
I think it'll be when the market sells.
Another day.
Stop asking me. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I think it'll be when the market sells.
That is the thing. Any questions you have, just pop them on this video, because we're going to share them to our Twitters. Pop them to any of us. We're all in some of the same things. We also specialize in different areas of the stock market and different areas of investment. Any questions you have, if there's a particular ticker, any stock you want us to talk about again, either like next week or when we decide to do something like this again, please just post it and ask us to talk about it. There's so many. I'm just going to hear relentless ATVK and things like that. But we're more than happy to talk about these kind of things, because we're in them for a reason. We're not just in them to just gamble our money away. We look into these things. With that, do you guys just want to say some final words, and then we'll just we'll end this here?
I'd quite like to say, yeah, definitely. Thanks everyone for taking the time to listen to us ramble on. This is a first time thing for all of us, recording something like this. So do leave a bit of feedback if you want. Let us know what you want. Let us know how we did. Let us know what you liked. Let us know what you don't like. We're used to seeing red in our portfolio. We can see a few red comments as such.
We only see green.
Not today, we didn't, and we will be honest about it. We will own that, because we know I didn't sell anything. I effectively ignored it today. And
I closed my trading 212 after that sell of Galaxy. I just closed it.
There is no harm in admitting that there's no harm in admitting that we lost. I think a lot of people lost out on a lot of money today. I think we all just ended the day a bit less red than we anticipated, but still, well, I ended red for sure. But yeah, so let us know what you like, what you enjoy. We think we want to make this a more common thing if there's appetite for it. And it won't be as doom and gloom. We can do a lot more DD specific episodes, or we can do some sort of analysis lessons, that kind of thing.
I think just to summarise, like you said, I'm bullish for the next couple of months. Don't worry about it. I'm bullish for the next couple of months. I think we'll be all right. I'll let you know when I'm reevaluating for a pullback. I'm always open and honest with my positions. If I'm selling, I'll let you guys know. If I'm opening a new position, I'll let you guys know. I'm open and honest. You can see what I'm trading, and I think we've got a bullish couple of months. As always, do your own research. Don't just trust what I'm saying, but that's my personal opinion. And, I think there's a lot of positive things to come. So just stick in there, guys. I know today was tough, but at the end of the day, everyone had a tough day. Even the guys who make millions out of trading had a tough day today. So that's when you know that you've not done anything wrong. It's just the way that the market conditions were today. And things did start to recover. So I think we might see a bounce back.
We did.
Do we want to end? Yeah. Do we want to end by just telling people where to find us again?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay, I'll start. So I'm John. I'm the Value Engine on Twitter. I also do stream a little bit, so I'm also available to talk to in my Discord if anytime you do want to. In fact, I think we're all in there. But it's a wild time out there. Stay safe, everyone. And yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Stay safe, and we'll always make you money.
Yeah. Also, he's
Bold
Will
claim.
at Will Farouk, the honky stonk man. I'm Josh. I'm at the Lab Report X. I post weekly the Lab Report, where you can see exactly how I've done in the week, what my top 5 stocks were for that week, and I tend to post things that I think are probably going to do well next week, or at least hold quite well. But of course, they're up and comers. You see how you do. Really, thank you for any of you who listened to any of this, and yeah, as Johnny says, stay safe, happy investing.
Happy investing, everyone. Good night.